This is RSBANDB Update, episode 635, recorded Thursday, September 7th, 2017, The Silent Majority. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for RSBANDB Update, episode 635, as you guys heard in the show open this week. September has started. We got a new batch of RuneScape updates on the way, RuneFest this month, and, of course, Double XP weekend, and also new co-host time on RSBANDB Update. So we said goodbye to the RR man last week, and this week we welcome back Dave, who was on the show. I think he did a quarter with us last year.
I did. Hello, hello.
You're here because I think we have some really interesting things to discuss this month, invention-wise, Double XP weekend-wise with you, and also I think we could tailor tech news in a very interesting way for us, which we'll talk a bit about later. So
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good month, guys.
Yeah. And, you know, in addition to that, we're going to have, as I said, Invention Batch 2 and a bunch of ninja fixes really this month. And the core of that, I think, starts off this week with the boss drop logger and the Motherlode Maw improvements. So this is a boss drop logger that essentially logs all of the unique items that you get from bosses in-game. Are you much of a PVMer? Did you have any of these checked off?
At heart, not really, but yes, I have done quite a few, mostly because of Reaper, and that continues back to Trim Completionist and going for that. So yes, but not necessarily by choice. But I don't anywhere near have any of them complete, if that's what we're getting at.
Right.
But
so basically what happens with this is you open up your Adventurers tab and then go to Beasts, and you have your standard list of the bosses that you can fight. And then on any of these, you can just click Collection, and that'll open up the Collection logger. And for example, in the Queen Black Dragon, you see the various 4 Dragonkin journals. The Queen Black Dragon in total has 12 unique options, all available for drops, including the Dragon Kite Shield, the Draconic Visage, and all of the other parts that you can get for the Royal Crossbow, as an example, for completing the Queen Black Dragon. So that is one way that I guess we're just providing extra little X's along the way that can be ticked off if you're a PVMer. And what's more with this is if you click on any of the items in the drop logger, you can share it to whatever chat you're in, and there's options to share it to only local friends, clan, or of course the guest clan chat if you use that. And it's also worth noting that you can close the Adventurers window behind it, so you can just have this drop logger off to the side if you wanted to keep it up for some reason. But I don't know. It's an interesting little tool, and I think they were talking about expanding this out to something related to clue scrolls in the future. So we'll have to see where they go with that. But I mean, I guess it's a nice little way to tick things off if you're going for bosses. But I don't know. It feels kind of like an inconsequential update to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in the scheme of things, it doesn't really do much. I have always been a fan of this sort of metric, I guess. Obviously, I've been subscribed to Rune Metric since it came out because I just really love the data and stuff. So it's always nice to see, you know, how much of an item you've gotten, you know, just to see, you know, because I know when like new bosses come out, new content comes out, everybody's curious, you know, what's the drop rate of this and how much of this, how much money can you make? So this sort of is more, you know, it gives you more of an idea of that sort of thing. And I know the PVM community has been kind of bellyaching that, you know, they don't really get much content other than actual bosses.
That's really funny.
But no, I think it's cool. I like the sort of data thing.
That's really funny.
Inconsequential, I believe so, but I think it's neat.
That's the funniest thing I've heard all year on this podcast, Dave.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, it's
that's a real knee snapper.
if we're gonna tick something else off, it would definitely be another PVM update. So we should probably have a drop log for how many PVM updates we get every year. So
Oh, there you go. That's a nice way of looking at it. Alongside this, there's also titles that you can claim when you tick some of these items off. So just a few of them here. Name the Araxite is for killing Araxi and getting all the drops from it. Chaos name, so Chaos Shane 12088 for getting all the Chaos Elemental drops. Shapeshifter name for Hellweir. The Kingslayer for the Calphite King. The Queenslayer for the Calphite Queen. I think those are nice ones. We'll talk more about that later. The Last Rider for the King Black Dragon. Kind of makes sense with the Dragon Riders. The Dormant for Telos. The Lone Fury for the Twin Furies. And Of Omens for Virago. So these are titles that you can get in game. And how many of them are there here? Let me just count quickly. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, 21, 22, 24, 25, about 26 different titles. So, yeah, definitely lots of work put in on that. I guess just to... I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this here, because, it's not as though these bosses were incomplete, and it's also not as if the requirements are there that they need another reward for showing that they've killed them so many times, because they of course have the pets and they have everything else that's associated with them. But I think I'm going a little bit off track here about.
Well, I agree. I think that at the core of this, it's pretty much just like boss pets like 2.0, just kind of reskin. Like it's just another thing because everybody's got the boss pets, everybody's got the skilling pets, everybody wants something else to grind out. I think that this is really all this is, because everybody's farmed for the boss pets, and granted, if you have the boss pets, you probably have all these titles now. But still, it's just another little grindy task to do for everybody that PVMs. It's just
something that's there,
just kind of a filler, but it's there.
Yeah. All right. We do have a discussion question about this later, I think, where we can go more in depth into the philosophy behind this as to whether or not it's right. But this is just essentially a drop logger, and I don't think there's much else to say with this part of the update.
Nope.
The second part, of course, is the Motherlode Maw improvements, which is in the level 115 Dungeoneering Resource Dungeon in Prif that you have access to. And the goal behind this when it came out was to aid people who are going through the Comp Cape in terms of giving them things that will be useful. So here's some things that have been added to the Motherlode Maw if you're going for a Comp Cape. They added Chimes and Tajatu for those for the Arc. Also Memory Strands and Gobi Charms. Grid of the Reaper Point, which gives you 20 Reaper points on use. Unstable Air Runes, 5,000 Runespan points on use. Slayer VIP coupons. Rare item token, Shattered World anima. That's really interesting to see that there. A month after that was updated. Large Menaphyte gift offerings, which give you Menaphos rep, and anima crystals, which you hand in at the Heart of Gielinor for some faction reputation. These are all pretty neat here, I think. I just raised questions about the Shattered World anima, if it's perhaps a little bit too soon to be putting that in there, and if the combined ecosystem of the Arc, or rather the limited ecosystem of the Arc, should be seeing Chimes and Tajatu in the Motherlode Maw, when we were told one of the key design philosophies of the Arc was that it was going to be a constrained economy, and that it wouldn't make its way out into other parts of the game. So that's just a question I have with that. So
yeah, I mean, considering Tajatu is pretty much the in-game currency for that region, I could see Chimes, because that's sort of like the entry into that area. So if you just wanted to get that, because then you spend Chimes on supplies, then you get supplies to go search for Tajatu. But I think giving outright Tajatu is a bit much considering what the Motherlode Maw's
Right.
intent is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I think that makes total sense. If you're going for just general XP related items, protein packs. So I guess people can say, protein items aren't exclusive to Treasure Hunter now, so they're not pay to win. That's a personal question for debate, depending on how you see protein items in Treasure Hunter in game. XP rewarding crystals, D&D tokens, daily, monthly, and weekly, Gothixian butterfly jars, XP boosting dungeoneering wildcards, standard dragon trinkets, which are convertible to metallic dragon trinkets if you so desire, spirit onyx if you're working with summoning, Heffin agility course multipliers, the Scrimshaw of sacrifice, and the Scrimshaw of corruption. Any of those stand out to you?
The one that stood out to me the most was the Reaper points, considering it's such a limited thing and it's a daily. You could be stuck anywhere from 5 to at most I think it's 15 or 18. So having a possibility to get 20 to knock some of those things off of the list for trim completionists is actually very substantial, at least in my case.
Yeah. And also the dragon trinkets, because that was specifically only a treasure hunter item, and they are very useful.
No, it's always nice to see treasure hunter items sort of find their way into the game to actually play, to get it. Most notably all of the elite skilling outfits and such.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, when you look at it, protein packs and dragon trinkets, just to name a couple of them here. The fact we have these now in game, you need 150 in dungeoneering still, but the fact you have a chance of getting them in game, I think, kind of removes a bit of a stigma about them as to what they are, and the fact that they're largely seen as treasure hunter items that were at some points pay to win. So
sure, absolutely.
I think they made a good move with this, even if it is 150 in dungeoneering, right?
Oh, I mean, in the scheme of things, 115 is not that hard to get. I mean, just with the experience rates, and I mean, it's high level content, and that's what a lot of people, when you have these higher level requirements, sometimes you might not agree with them, but you have to think, we can't be giving this sort of stuff out to level 50 dungeoneers,
right?
Type deal. So
definitely. And I mean, you're entirely spot on with that, because what use would they have for something like that if you're only if you were lower level, right? So
exactly, yeah, and it's dungeoneering being the first skill to 120. That is kind of a higher level, because it's very, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's very rare to see someone with 115 dungeoneering that's not maxed or close to maxed.
Right, because it brings all the skills in, so you're going to need to use them in dungeoneering to a degree.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Also, a bunch of miscellaneous items have been added, including the Kaldurian title scrolls, which were previously only available by killing those dragons. Onyx, I think that's a good thing to have here, given the fact that you can now make that alchemical onyx with that level 107 invention. So just add another little source to onyx in the game, so that's good. Kethsey items, ghostly essence, horde stalker rings, harmonic dust, thinker boots and gloves, the magic notepad, magic note paper, and Ushtabi, which, of course, if I recall my naming correctly, is what you need for the 120 Slayer Pokedex. So
yes, correct.
That's nice. This just feels more like a dungeon that you go check, every couple days now, open it up, and you get something that's going to be useful for you at high level with this huge list. And yeah,
I mean, being someone that has really taken advantage of this when I can, log in. If I do anything, I would at least want to get Maw. I'm really happy with the trimming down they've done and the sort of revising of what is, given, because more often than not, I used to get Crystal Geodes or Crystal Flex Sandstone, and that literally does nothing for someone who is, either working towards comp or recomping or going for trim. Like, that was more the stuff that it was new content when Prif came out. So they were trying to get more into the, ecosystem, as to where now that's just commonplace. So, they've brought everything back, and they've started trimming stuff down to really be a lot more efficient in, your 3 seconds it takes you to click on the wall.
Yeah, and like you said, they have entirely removed Crystal Geodes, Crystal Flex Sandstone, and Harmony Moss because you can get these really easily in game, and they don't really help you with your efforts to complete the game. So, excellent choice right there. They also reduce the chances of getting Implings, Juju and combination potions, and Aquarium eggs. They'll no longer be given out even at max prestige, but Aquarium eggs in general have been reduced with this. So, very good on Jagex's part here, I think. And, this is just another one of those little quality of life updates that would go unnoticed otherwise, but with it getting its own collection here, there's going to be people who just have been on a break. They log in and see, oh, this dungeon has been updated and it's actually more useful now. Maybe I can go a little bit further and complete comp. So,
yeah, I'm really glad that this didn't get overshadowed by a bigger update. Like, as if this was released next week, it's like, oh yeah, here's Mother Lode Maw, but bonus experience, or something like, here's Adventure Batch 2. Oh, by the way, here's Little Mother Lode Maw. This really gets its own spotlight next to another. I would say, they're splitting the spotlight, and I'm glad that this got the recognition that it deserved, because it will get people back into trying to complete the game and just one more resource and outlet for certain items. So.
All right. Well, that moves us on to the patch notes right now. Not really many ninja fixes in the patch notes this week, but a number of good ones altogether. So I'll just start off here and stop me if you want to comment on any of them. The Order of the Slayer Master achievement is no longer randomly reset. All right. Very interesting. I don't know what the cause of that would be, or even what that achievement is about, but hey. You wouldn't want to lose an achievement that required a lot of work. So
no.
An issue where Sir Owen can go for missing from the Black Knight's fortress during the Death of Chivalry quest has been fixed. That's quite a big one.
Well, I would sure hope so.
Considering where Death of Chivalry sits in with the quest lines. So.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's something we were kind of talking about with the Maw update. Base Reaper points received from completing bosses in the Heart of Gila or Challenger mode has been increased by 2. Also, base Reaper points received from defeating Telos has been increased by 1. So, making it easier to get Reaper points with this as well.
Yes, and as a frame of reference, if this is making a patch note for something to be increased by 2 or 1, that should just go to show how little you can...
Right.
The rate at which you can get Reaper points. So yeah, this is as small as it might be. This is actually quite significant in the long term. So nice
definitely.
to see those 2 in here.
Lent weapons, which don't require a target to use the special attack, will now correctly drain adrenaline or special attack energy. All right. So I guess that means something along the lines of, say, just pulling one randomly out of the air. The Dragon Battle Axe, for example, would be a weapon like that. So that's an example right there. But I'm struggling to think of any higher level weapons that have special attacks that work like that. So I'm not sure what it could be. But, the legendary pet's life-saving ability will no longer activate in practice boss mode instances. Legendary pets have the ability to teleport you randomly out of combat towards a bank and save your life. That's happened to me once upon a time during a quest. So nice to see this getting some luck, because, I mean, it's practice mode. You're allowed to die, right? So
sure, absolutely. That's the point.
Players can no longer attempt to use Moya's device or a Disc of Returning on an instant-only world. So I'm guessing that means something along the lines of Clan Citadel would be
That's what I was
case
thinking,
for this. Next Angel of Death no longer targets another player who isn't the tank when restarting her attacks. So basically, what this is describing is a situation where Angel of Death would lose aggro of whoever was the tank when the attack cycle would restart, which, I mean, would completely break the immersion of combat in the game for someone who is dedicated as a tank. So that's good on them for fixing that. Also with this, next Angel of Death will now restart her attacks if a player targeted with the Icicle Slam attack dies before it hits them. So basically, the Icicle Slam attack, what I'm reading from this, will continue regardless of whether or not someone ends up dying. So it's just not a convenient out to ignore that attack. Players who have been pinned under the icicle during next Angel of Death's encounter will no longer get hit by shadows if the icicle pins them after the shadow starts. I haven't fought Nex entirely, so I'm not entirely sure what this means, but it sounds like there is a case here where if you were stuck, you could get hit more than once by special attacks that you could not avoid. And now here's the head scratcher of the week. It is no longer possible to equip an offhand weapon with a two-handed weapon equipped by using a non-bankable two-handed weapon.
Now say that 3 times fast and try to understand.
Right? It is no longer possible to equip an offhanded weapon with a two-handed weapon equipped by using a non-bankable two-handed weapon. I'm trying to figure out what a non-bankable two-handed weapon is, what that would be in game right now.
I'm trying to clean my brain from leaking out of my ears. I just can't wrap my head around. I was reading this pre-show and I was like, what the heck?
It's not, because the barrel chest anchor, that's a quest item and that is two-handed and you can wield it.
I don't know what a non-bankable two-handed weapon is.
Yeah. It's got to be something quest-related, I think.
It has to be.
Let me just do a quick
because
search
every two-handed weapon I've ever come across, I've been able to bank it, at least to my knowledge.
I mean, the only references to this are, of course, the wikis and this week's patch notes, so... I have no idea.
Yeah, let us know if you guys have any idea what they're talking about, because we're at a loss, that's for sure.
Yeah, I got a kick out of that when reading it. But all right, anything else in the patch notes that jumped out at you this week in addition to these?
Nope, I think that pretty much covers it.
Okie dokie. So this week we also had the September month ahead Q&A live stream done by Jagex. And this live stream, of course, was answering questions about the behind-the-scenes article we had last week. And you know, I think it's an interesting time for Jagex because we're in the midst of the unfinished business strategy. We've got a bunch of announcements coming at RuneFest, presumably about the future of the game and the direction it's going to take. And you know, it just seems to be a more transparency, which I think is good. About the plans. I mean, Jagex has been transparent for a number of years, but they seem to be doing that more so in these live streams. And the players, from the sense I got of listening to some of these questions, is that the players are definitely holding them to account. Now, here's what came out of this stream, and I figure we'll talk about invention a bit and then gloss over the rest of the stuff until we get to what I really want to talk about from it. So Invention Batch 2, they give a little rundown of what it's going to include, a little bit more info than what we got in the video last week. There's going to be a new gizmo bag, 3 tiers for 10, 15, and 20 gizmos held respectively, unlockable at levels 75, 95, and 118. So basically the idea behind this is that you don't need to have that tab in your bank with all the divine energy and whatnot also clogged up with gizmos. So that's a win for everyone who does invention. And of course, the reasoning I think that we're going to want to hold these gizmos is because they're also coming out with the ability to separate gizmos off of weapons, which has been something people have been wanting for a long time. Because just think of how much time you spend getting some of those gizmos, right? So.
Oh my gosh! Well, just a fun little tidbit. I think I spent about 25 mil trying to get a certain perk on one of my tier 90 weapons, and I still didn't get it. So I was quite frustrated, considering that once it's on there, and I only got tier 2 of it. So yeah, that's for another episode.
Yeah. So that's good, very good. Some other things that are coming device-wise, the Divinomatic this is basically something you can use while you're doing divination, and any energy you receive, while siphoning a rift will give you a divine charge object that can essentially be used to charge your weapon. So it's basically another way of allowing you out to just go out and gather divine charges right away, rather than needing to use the simple parts and put the energy together and build the charge packs, or even buy the charge packs off the exchange. So that'll be nice to see, though. I don't know if that'll be something people will use, because simple parts seem really simple to get. Pardon the pun.
Well, I mean, judging by the name of the part, no, I think the ultimate determinant to see if this is actually going to be a decent way to train or have any use is the rate. So I'm assuming that if you use this, you're going to get more charge than if you were to just, collect the energy yourself type of thing. I would think there would be some sort of incentive, because last time I checked, charge packs were like, what, 75K or so? So I'm just curious as to, what is going to be required to build this, how much charge this is going to be able to generate.
The amount of charge you get is going to scale, of course, off the kind of energy you feed it.
Sure. So it's definitely an interesting concept, and I'm excited about all this stuff. So we can just keep on going down the list.
All right. A little bit more clarification on machines. They'll be in the Invention Guild behind the boarded up doors and whatnot, and inside there you'll be able to build whatever machines you like. So they're in effect going to be construction hotspots, which I found was very interesting, because we're trying to get away from that model if we ever have another construction update. So,
knock on wood, pardon the pun again, but considering it hasn't really been touched since its inception in 2006.
I think it kind of makes sense to have hotspots like that, just because they're it's not something that's going to be changing, and it's not something you want to choose. Okay, that chair needs to go there and whatnot. But
right.
It was just interesting to hear the hotspot mechanic like that.
Yeah, for this instance, absolutely, I think this works. But I'm just speaking, being bitter about them still not doing a construction rework.
Oh, we can be bitter about a lot of things like that here.
Oh gosh.
You won't be limited also to one of each machine. So if you wanted to have, 3 alchemizers in there, you could do that. Or if you wanted to have 3 devices that tan hides, you could do that as well. So they're going to allow players to have whatever they want in there. And the idea behind this is that you're not going to need to check them daily, so it won't add to the daily scape grind. But what they're looking at doing with this is automating mundane tasks like high alching and tanning hides and whatnot. So the idea is you'll check it once or twice a week, and that'll be it with these machines.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think that's probably one of the biggest concepts that is going to be in this invention batch. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Potion makers as well and whatnot. The plank cutter as well. The portable sawmill, I guess, would be the more appropriate name for that. But those are just a few examples of some of the machines that are coming. They did talk about levels and whatnot in the stream, but we'll leave that for the actual release episode, just in case they're subject to change and whatnot. Also, another interesting thing I think that is going to be happening with this invention update is, of course, the removal of inspiration. That's one thing, but also a drain reduction bonus on items that are greater than level 12, and an increased chance to activate a perk at level 20. So at level 20, if you take your item there, you'll have an extra 10% chance on that to activate your perk. So if you had, for example, a 5% chance to activate a perk, you would at level 20 have a 5.5% chance to activate that perk. So it's multiplicative and not additive, unfortunately, on that.
I think this is also a very important update, considering that it's pretty much they've had 8 dead levels on equipment since the release of Invention.
Right.
Once you're 12, that's when you
There's
siphon.
No point.
Like, there's no reason to go higher than that.
Now
that this is the case, it incentivizes actually training it up and keeping it.
So I have mixed feelings about what I'm going to say next, and I don't know if this is something we should be talking about right now, or if we should wait until actual release to see if there's any surprises along the way. But do you feel a charge reduction post level 12 and the increased perk activation chance at 20 is enough of a reason to level things be up beyond level 12?
That is a good question.
Like, I don't want to poison this update before it arrives, but I think that's a good discussion to have.
No, absolutely. I think it's it's going to come up sooner or later, and that's I think the problem in most cases is scalability. If we're going from level 12 to level 20, and like for instance, you said going from 5% to 5.5%, my initial thing would be absolutely not. Like there's no point in my opinion. Now I'm not a min maxer in terms of PVM, but going for a 0.5% chance as to where if I had 5% at 12, at 20 having, because the the experience from 10 to 12 on a weapon is the same from 1 to 10. The
Right.
typical
It's
RuneScape
massive.
curve. So yeah, I think they're really going to have to sort of amp this up to see it being that worth it. Now, in terms of how it relates to charge reduction, can't say
Yeah, we'll
just
have
yet
to see
'cause we
what
don't
the
really
exact
know that,
numbers are on that and what the curve on that looks like.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really only 2 benefits past level 12. I don't know, like for me, that's enough. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to encourage someone to just keep that item around. I mean, it will if it has good perks on it, but maybe there might have been something else. I don't have any ideas of what that could have been. I'm just wondering if it's enough.
I'm thinking along with invention level requirement, I think if it pegs it parallel to equipment level requirement for removing gizmos, I think that's going to be the kicker. If you need level 15 or something, or level 18 to be able to remove gizmos freely along with an invention level, I think that will instantly, you wouldn't even have to do a drain level reduction or a
Oh yeah, that's another thing. You are going to need
increase.
level.
So
I think it's level 15 to remove gizmos.
yeah.
I think if I heard that right.
So
But
if that's the case, that alone, I think will be the threshold for, okay, I'm already here, I might as well just keep it, sort of thing. Or at least that's my prediction, but we shall see.
yeah. All right. Also in this live stream, they talked about the new Slayer creatures that are arriving on September 25th after RuneFest. This is tied to an announcement that is going to be happening at RuneFest, so there is a kind of a linkage there as to whether or not it's gonna be part of a larger update. But we have seen the environmental teasers for this, and this area just looks absolutely astounding. Based on what they have and what they're showing and where it started and where they're coming from now. It's basically an island with trees on it that's very foggy and dark. So I don't know what this means or what's going to be else on here, but it looks really good from the video and images that were provided here. These creatures are going to unlock at levels 104, 106, and 108 Slayer. And they're not designed to be fully AFK like an Abyssal Demon, mind you, but they're also not going to be intense as, say, Ripper Demons. So they're going to be somewhere in the middle, which I think is fair for something that is post-level 99 Slayer. So, all right. Now comes the point of this... the point of the stream, where we talk about once again the debacle that came with the mining and smithing poll. You guys will recall last week we had a huge in-depth discussion on this poll and what the reactions were about this and what was wrong with it and whatnot going forward. In this week's live stream, they said they're going to be reworking the polling system, removing gem rating, also adding the ability for multiple questions for a poll to make them more survey-like, kind of like the surveys that we've had in-game before. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think that there needs to be some talk about the actual path up towards where we get to a poll as well. I didn't hear this in the stream this week, so that was kind of unfortunate. But I'll just sum up what I think needs to happen from Jagex's perspective here. First and foremost, well, you might see this as a bit of a recap of last week, but there needs to be competing developer teams writing blogs out for the respective yes and no options of what will happen in any vote on a polling game. A yes option and a no option should not be combined into one developer blog, no matter what the update is. Secondly, a neutral party, probably from the community management team, needs to write out the poll questions and have them vetted to ensure that no bias exists in them, which we saw last week, and establish who this poll is going to affect and ensure that only those eligible to vote should be voting, as we kind of did with the Virago Vitalis poll, because let's face it, it doesn't make sense having old school RuneScape come over and vote in a poll that they're not going to play, and they might not know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So I think that would be a good thing to address going forward. I don't know if they will, because obviously this update hasn't come out yet. And that's kind of what I said with the invention part of this Q&A is I don't like commenting on updates that aren't here yet, because what we're hearing in the stream might indeed be different than what actually arrives. So those are just my thoughts based on what we have right here. I do like the fact that there's going to be options to have multiple questions, but hey, it's a step in the right direction, I think. What do you think of the current state of polls while we're here?
That was actually a really good point that was brought up, is I don't want to say screening, but, making sure that the people that are voting are the people that the outcome of the poll is going to affect. Now, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, well, if we're releasing something that's going to be 80 plus Herblore, then only accounts with 80 plus Herblore can vote. It's a nice thought in theory, but I'm not sure that would really work in practice.
Basically, what I think needs to happen is it just needs to be some activity requirement that you're an active RS3 player.
Right. That it's not like, oh, I just have this dummy account that I get onto every time there's a in terms of what happened with old school, I don't think, a level 3 account should be able to post or have any sort of weight in polls like this. I think there should be sort of an activity requirement, or even if there is a level requirement, at least be ranked somewhere in high score or something to, say that this person has and is contributing to the community and playing, and their opinion would reflect that sort of thing within the outcome.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we're not calling for draconian measures here to prevent people from voting, just something to ensure that the people who are taking part are the ones who this is going to affect. You guys should be able to see right now, if you go to informer.rsbnb.com, I have effectively written what amounts to an open letter to the community and Jagex about what we need to do with polls going forward after the mining and smithing poll. If you guys listen to the show, what was written there will be no surprise. It's kind of a summary of what led up to this poll and where we're at right now and what we can do going forward to ensure that there is no major hiccups or whatever that bring us another Evolution of Combat type update where the community ends up getting shattered. So, and that's why I have such an interest in polls at this point, is because I feel like we need to ensure that we're not going to splinter the community off, because that would be really, really bad at this point. Really bad. So, next up, free to play. Free to play also got some coverage in this Q&A live stream. The area east of Varrock will be opened up to free to play. Some quests will be made free to play, including Broken Home. Fletching is being made free to play come October. And the large free to play focus here is because of RuneScape Mobile. That really didn't surprise me. RuneScape Mobile focus on free to play. But Fletching made free to play. What do you think of that?
It's funny because I was looking over this and I saw that, and it was funny because that was actually the first skill I ever trained upon getting members back in 2004. I was in Falador Bank and logged in as a member for the first time and ran north and cut down an oak tree and made a regular tree and made some arrow shafts. It's like, oh my gosh, it was like the forbidden fruit. I finally trained a member skill.
Right.
But I also got to thinking, it only makes sense because it's the only skill of the 3 combat triangles that you can't make your own weapons or ammunition in free to play, because rune crafting is free to play, and then mage, and then mining and smithing. But it's like fletching. It's like, well, you're kind of out of luck at that point. So I think it's as weird as it sounds. I think it's way overdue, but it's nice to see them giving some free to play some love, because it's always nice to get people in and immersed, especially with RuneScape Mobile coming, which I'm super excited about as well. So hopefully that does well for all walks of life.
Yeah, because I mean, free to play needs to feel like an exact experience when you download a free app on the App Store. If you're constantly running into members' content that you can't do, and it's severely impacting the way you play the game, then that's a problem. But one thing they also said here is that, while there's going to be free to play content that people are going to play, they're also going to run up to members' content, but they don't want the members' content to be so extreme that it feels as though it's limiting the game. So that's that's really good. Yeah, it's really getting back to what free to play used to be when the game first came out. So
it's what got everybody that plays today into it, pretty much.
Oh yeah, definitely. So
it's nice to see them go back to their roots in that sense.
Yeah. Among other things that'll be coming this month include Luck of the Dwarves and other luck rings will now have their messages adapted so that they'll say what was dropped when you get it. So it'll say what exactly it brought for you. And if you have Hazelmare's ring, that'll also tell you what was doubled. They're adding tool tips to the vast majority of items in game. 1,000 plus. They're adding tool tips for 1,000 plus items in game. That's a lot. They're also updating the boss portal. In the Max Guild, it'll be able to tell you exactly where you want to go, and you can choose with a nice little list option to all the bosses. And also a permanent gold accumulator, which should hopefully come out this month. It'll cost 1.5 million dungeoneering tokens, which basically means it'll just pick up all the GP that you get automatically.
Which is awesome, because when they first came out with the gold accumulator, I was like, oh, cool, it's a charming imp, because that's basically one of my downfalls in especially slaying recently. I'm never one to pick up, 500 gold here, 2K there, 2K. I just don't think about it.
But
it's
it adds
weird,
up
but when
over
you add
time.
it up, it's like 700K per task.
Yep.
So that's just
that definitely
a testament to me being lazy, and I'm not trying to deny that. But the fact that it was only limited to 1 million gold just felt like such a token drain. So seeing that this is permanent is awesome, and it's long overdue. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. And I mean, 1.5 million tokens. I think that's probably the most expensive item there is in game right now. Dungeoneering.
I believe so, unless there's a pet that's 2 million. I'm not sure. I know there's some ones that are way up there, but yeah, 1.5 mil is steep nonetheless, but for good reason.
And that's 15 million Dungeoneering XP.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to move on to questions right now. We do have a bunch of them this week. The first one is the RR man. He could not keep away from the podcast.
This is RSBANDB Update Questions, episode 45. Interview for the new host. Oh, look at that. I'm back. Couldn't resist myself. I had to send in another question. I had to be a part of the show. I missed it too much. And it's only been a week. Anyway, to the new host. What do you think qualifies you for this position on the podcast? What are your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to RuneScape discussion? But for a more fun, standard question, which I think I like to ask the podcast once a year because it changes so much all the time, but what are your current TV shows that you're enjoying or just discovered recently? I'm actually a big fan of the TV show Lucifer at the moment. And with that, I leave the show to the new host. May the force be with you always. Peace out.
All right. Well,
I forgot to bring my resume, so I kind of regret that. But yeah, as I'm sure you know specifically, I have been um, a co-producer of the show for quite a while now, and I was on the show for a quarter last year, so I'm sure most of you remember me. But for those of you that are new listeners, I have been playing RuneScape since late 2004, so I'm approaching my 13th year playing. Currently maxed one level away from 120 Slayer, which I will be getting next weekend on Double XP weekend, and actively pursuing my Trim Completionist cape. So I've got a few hours of gameplay under my belt. So strengths and weaknesses. I think.
You're looking forward to all that Menaphos stuff.
Oh yeah, let's tell you what. So no, that's pretty much. I guess my qualifications for those of you that don't know me.
The number one thing that stands out for me about you is you got 99 runecrafting before RuneSpan.
Yes, and that is one of my accolades that I like to talk about, but it's kind of one of those things where people, if we're getting to the era where people don't know what pre-RuneSpan was. I feel old, but yeah, no, that was actually my second 99. My first being smithing. So how many untrimmed smithing capes have you seen? Probably not very many. I don't see it anymore because obviously I'm maxed. But anyway, yeah, that's I was kind of unconventional in my earlier days of RuneScape.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, I remember pre-ZMI altar.
Yeah, that was back when I.
What level did you get to before ZMI came out?
I think I started my big kick around like 55 or 60.
Okay.
Because I used to do a lot of nature running for some of the top. I actually used to run for Larry R.
Oh, yes.
For those of you who remember that.
And oh boy, there is a whole story around nature and running and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's
I have my own stories on that too. But it would be interesting to compare notes on that at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then I think when my first love for the skill sort of came to be, it was New Year's Eve, and I pulled an all-nighter, and all I did was I was just crafting law runes, and I was using the balloons from, I don't even remember what quest that is, the hot air balloons, but I was just going back and forth, and it's like, wow, this is like, this is actually not that bad because you just got in a groove, and this was right after the Grand Exchange had come out. So previous to the Grand Exchange, I made all of my money merchanting in World 2 Valley. So basically the Grand Exchange sort of automated all that, and it was a new system. People weren't really, standing around with auto typers and all that stuff trying to scalp Barrow's items and whatnot. So I was trying to find the next big money maker. And that was Slayer or runecrafting. And as most of you probably know, I'm not much into the combat side of the game, so I tried out runecrafting, and the rest is history. So,
very nice, very nice. One day, someone should ask us about runecraft running. We could have a long discussion on that.
I have many memories.
Me too. All right, TV shows. You go first.
I'm not really much into watching TV shows. The few that I have watched, I'm not caught up on Game of Thrones, so everybody can smite me as they wish. I do like Walking Dead. I'm fairly caught up on that, and that is going to be starting up here in the next month or so, I believe. So I'm pretty excited for that. So we always have watch parties at my friend's house, so it'll be nice to sort of get back into the season in terms of weather and the TV show, but I'm kind of boring in the sense of TV. I don't really watch too much TV. I'm more into games and whatnot.
Right. And that's a link I made before, is that TV show watching and game playing are kind of interchangeable as forms of entertainment. So, as for me, I think the only
what are your qualifications, Shane, for being a host? You have a few episodes under your belt?
Oh, definitely. I built this website.
Hey, there you go. That's enough for me.
And I'm trying to prevent the community from flying apart again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. If only we could go to RuneFest this year. But anyways. So TV show wise, unless you want more on the qualifications.
Oh no, I believe you. I always wanted to meet the person that made RSBNB, so I guess I finally found it.
You know, a lot of people say that, and I don't understand why. Because my goal at the end of the day is just to play the game. I'm not out there to, be one of those famous streamers that's gonna get a golden gnome or something like that. But
well, and I think that's what makes it so genuine. I mean,
yeah.
if there's always a conflict of interest, I think the quality and the community, I think, reflect that heavily. Because if you're just in it for the dollar, or if you're just in it for the fame, okay, if you don't get that, or if it's not up to your standard, then you'll start underperforming, or things will naturally fall apart, as most situations like that do. But if it's just, if it's fun, it's a hobby, it comes naturally. I think that's the key to success for sure, and we can see that by 634 previous episodes of this fine podcast.
Oh my God! All right. Okay, TV show wise, I know we got a new season of The Amazing Race coming at some point, and I know we have a new season of Designated Survivor returning at the end of this month. Those are going to be the two repeats that I'm fully aware of, but I cannot go through a TV show segment without reminding everyone that Star Trek Discovery is premiering on September 24th. In Canada, we're in the position here where we're the only country in the world where Star Trek Discovery is actually airing on cable. The rest of you guys need to either purchase CBS All Access in the US or Netflix if you live somewhere else to watch Discovery. So I feel as though that you folks in the US are kind of missing out, because I don't know anyone who has CBS All Access.
For what it's worth, I didn't even know that was a thing, so that should tell you
right.
exactly what you were assuming.
So that's kind of unfortunate that people in the U.S. without Netflix will need an extra service, but hey, CBS wants to promote their new streaming service. Just a little bit of background about Discovery. It's set to take place 10 years before the original series, and they're going to be looking at some of the events that happened, I guess, leading up to the core issues with the Klingons and whatnot prior to that. And there's lots of interesting discussion about timeline-wise about what they could have done with that. One of the things they wanted to do with it is that they initially had the idea that each season would take place in a different time period, but they wanted to keep it simple, so they're just keeping it to this time period, which I think would have been a really interesting thing given the fact that we've seen we've seen the very early ones with Enterprise, and then going all the way back to the most recent, which I guess in this case would be Voyager. But Star Trek Discovery, September 24th, Netflix, rest of the world, CBS All Access if you're in the US, and Space Channel if you're in Canada. So we're the only ones that get access to that. So that'll be really neat to see, given the fact that Enterprise ended in 2005. So 12 years ago was the last episode of Star Trek on TV. So it's been a long time.
These are exciting times we were in.
Definitely. I hope everyone will give it a watch. And I think the RR man had an idea of that's where this question would go, hence the way he signed it off. Alrighty. Next one is from Pernasius.
G'day Shane, and welcome to our new mystery co-host. Pernasius here, once more with a discussion topic for you. With the relaunch of the achievement system, we saw many new tasks put into the game to advance your rune score. However, the vast majority of these are once again aimed at the PVM community, with just a few scraps thrown to the skillers. 90% of the new tasks are PVM oriented, and again this week we saw a whole bunch of new titles introduced, fully aimed at the PVMers. Oh, I did forget that they threw us a bone in a new lore book added to the Edamu Cave, albeit something that takes 7 seconds to find and is on content 2 or 3 years old. Do I sound bitter? Yes, I am. What's wrong with having some tasks aimed at skills, such as cut and fletch one of every type of shield bow, or make 100 Talon Beast pouches, or even grow and collect at least 85 of each herb in a single run? Perhaps run and collect 5 logs from each elder tree within 10 minutes. There are so many small incidental tasks that could be added for skillers, but we get kill the giant mole 10 times, and then go and do it 50 times, and then get it up to 100 times to unlock a few extra points. They could even revisit some of the old tasks from the old Super September event from 2013, such as Mad Skills, where you had to train 15 skills in a day, or the one where you had to run to the wilderness wall in the Deep Wildy and back without teleporting or dying. You could pray at 3 different altars that are devoted to 3 different gods. There is so much they could have done to make a really great update for the majority of players, yet once again they simply put on the binders and focus on the great majority of the PvM side. So, am I just a bitter old man, or am I speaking for the silent majority of players who don't just want to see so much aimed at PvM? What would you like to see added to the achievement tasks for rune score points, and are there any tasks and skills you could think of that would be out of the ordinary, but fun in a little way that you could aim for? As always, thanks for the great podcast, and happy RuneScaping to all.
All right. As I mentioned, we would come back to those achievements that were linked with the boss drop logger and whatnot, because each of these does actually represent an achievement for all the various bosses. So not only do you kill them, you need to complete all of the lore from them, or rather, not the lore, sorry, all the drops, which is huge when you think about it, potentially, to complete all these. So. This is, you're right. Just this week is an entirely huge update in terms of the amount of achievements that come with this. So you are 100% right on that from the combat and PvM side of it. Do I think skillers are the silent majority? That's a hard question. I want to say yes, but I don't have any evidence to prove it.
I want to say yes, but I don't know if that's the case.
Right. Right. Because when you think about it, RuneScape has always been a combat-focused game. It started initially with, just killing things. Then we moved to Slayer. Then we moved to intermediate bosses, and now we're at high-level bosses and the achievements surrounding them. So, there's always been that focus on combat, but at the same time, if you remove the skills from the game, combat ceases to exist. If you remove combat from the game, though, there are some skills that can still stand on their own. So with that being said, I think that skilling is an integral part of the game, and it should be looked at more so. As for silent majority, I don't know. We don't have the information to say with that. It certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's, if anything, I think it's undervalued. Because again, what's the point in a Slayer task if you can't sell the herbs to people that want to make potions, or you can't sell all the materials that you get for people that want to use them, type of deal. So yeah, I mean, again, I think the general consensus of us is yes, a silent majority. But if you go to any other outlet for the game, it's all PvMers, and it's all PvP or some sort of combat.
Or it's PvM, but the skilling is done to support PvM.
Right. So, in essence, I think I'm going to go with it's undervalued. Do you sound bitter about it? Yes, but I also sound bitter that they haven't touched construction in like 12 years. So anyway, no, I think that's awesome, and I completely agree with Parnassius said. It would be nice to have that sort of thing, but as we saw, boss pets were a thing at least a year before skilling pets were a thing. And I hope it doesn't take them that long to integrate some of the achievements that you had mentioned. I think that's awesome. I think, collect 85 herbs and
oh yeah, definitely.
Farm run. It's, actual achievements, not just, do this, do that, do this, do that, as opposed to just increment 10 kills, 50 kills, 100 kills, 500 kills. Like that's just it's just a kill count at that point. Something that sort of proves a little bit of skill in a game, being able to do a certain amount of something in a certain amount of time to where it is just a little tick off the checkbox, but it's something fun to do. It's not restricting your gameplay, but it's just neat to have or something to aspire to. Just to put in your record book.
And I'm going to cite 2 achievements that are good examples of ones that there needs to be more of, just random out there, not necessarily relating to skills. The Great Gielinor run from one end of the map to the other effectively without teleporting. Kind of like Pernasius's run through the wilderness thing from Super September a few years back. And there's also one where you talk to the drunken dwarf with 28 ales, 28 different ales inside your inventory.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of cheeky little...
Yeah, they're just random, fun little things to do that you might do accidentally, but you probably won't. So if you want to, just kind of showcase them off, it's definitely something you can do. And, there definitely needs to be more like that. And I would go so far as to say, we have this huge emphasis on the community and having the community suggest what they think about updates and even suggesting ninja fixes to a degree where the ninja fixes are getting to a point where, only a certain number of people actually request the fixes that, okay, maybe we need to have a better look at what we're bringing these ninja fixes in. They listen to ninja fixes. They're brought into game based on player suggestion. I think instead something similar that we should have is a constant going drive by the community to submit achievements that could be skilling related, they could be combat related, they could be quest related, or they could just be damn random, Like, here's an example of a quick little random one right now. Clear the South Falador cabbage patch. And do a dance.
I like that, and I think that
do a dance in a clear South Falador cabbage patch, and you can't do that on your own. And what that also gets you to do, that gets you to bring some friends, which was an achievement a few years back for the May thing. So, I mean, lots of little things like that they could bring back. Another one, maybe stand in the most remote spot on RuneScape. I don't know what that is, and I think you could define most remote as probably just the hardest place to get to that is out in the middle of nowhere. And a long time ago, for me, I think that might have been that little peninsula between Alcard and between the swamp. But of course, that's not the case now because we got the Polyport dungeon and the divination colony there. Let's see. I think area I'm thinking, for example, that this could be is where was that one spot? Out east, maybe? On that little island south of Mosla Harmless that was there for that one quest. Just stand out there, do an emote on top of the windmill that's there. Because that is so remote, you only ever go there for the quest. It's just something to do and a reason to go back to that spot. Another example could be to light the beacon network that we did for one of the task sets. Though, I mean, I guess that already counts if that's done. But hey, maybe they could come up with something similar to that. So, lots of little things I think could be added in. Maybe take a trip in the canoe from Lumbridge all the way up to the wilderness. That might be a fun little thing to do. I don't know.
I think it would be fun to have sort of a chain of achievements all in one, incorporating, take the canoe up. You can only light the beacons by a certain method of travel. Like, you can't teleport and you can't have a beast burden, and you have to, do it with full bronze on or something like that, just to sort of little extra touch. And you maybe have a achievement section, and you put all these achievements in something that's kind of just like a miscellaneous category, and when you do them all, you get a title or you get an emote or something like that. Nothing completely game changing, but just something fun to do to occupy your time in between, clan events or whatever it is that you partake in.
Yeah, and I mean, our options we're providing here are just examples of the kind of things that could be there. Another one I have is complete a run from Berg de Rot to Castle Draken, the 2 banks, in a record number of time, because you remember all that maze you got to go through, right? You'd have to go through that maze. No shortcuts, because we all did that in that one quest. I think that'd be a fun thing. Fun in a very sadistic sense.
Absolutely.
So, it's just like little things like this. And I think, if anything, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment for Jagex, is that, it's not necessarily perhaps that they forgot. It could just be, what if it was a time constraint and there's no time to add these kind of in-depth achievements that require hooks into the game? Because if you think about it, all the telemetry for killing bosses, that's already all there. So I'm not saying that gives them a free pass, but it could definitely be one thing.
It could be a limiting factor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It could be a limiting factor. But it would definitely be nice to see some achievements like that. So, all right. Thank you, Pernasius. You are not bitter, and we agree with you. There's definitely something with the silent majority at stake here, I think. Alrighty, next one is from Flash. Hello, Shane and company, with all of the new boss titles. Which ones do you like or want the most? My personal favorite is the Dragon Rider, but I also like the Faceless one or the Kingslayer a lot. Hope I can get one of those eventually. And that's from Flash. So this is back to this week's update. Which of these do you like, and which of these would you go for?
I really like the Shapeshifter. I'm not really sure why. It just sort of stood out to me. I'm not really big on the super long titles that take up half the chat box. So, for example, name of the Seventh Order, or just something like that. I don't like something that's really obscures it. I just like short and sweet, to the point. I think the one I have on right now is Archon or something. It's just short, sweet, kind of obscure, but I really like the Shapeshifter one. And I believe that is the Hellweir title.
Yep.
Not my favorite in
terms
God
of
Wars
bossing,
2.
yeah.
But it'd be worth it if I were to go for any of them. It's a decent fight. So yeah, I mean, I guess time will tell.
All right, I would have to go for either the Liberator or the Queenslayer. Liberator, I think, just sounds really good, but of course that's a Liberator of Mazcap, which
yeah, I saw that one too, and it's it's probably less likely to happen as if it were Hellweir, so I'm gonna go with Shapeshifter.
And I like Queenslayer, I think, mainly just because we have a queen at the moment, and that sounds kind of funny. You'd be a Queenslayer when the Commonwealth has a queen. So, and then change that to Kingslayer eventually one day. So
there you go.
Also, Finesse of the Icene for Commander Ziliana. As I was mentioning a few weeks ago on the show, we don't really hear much about the Icene, so that's a nice one as well. So those would have to be my top 3. All right, you want to take the next question for us?
I will. Hello, Invention Part 2 is coming soon, and that means machines are coming to town. We know already that there will be auto-tanners and auto-alkers, but what machine would you realistically like to see and come into the game? I personally would like to see a machine that will pour potions together automatically. Also, what will be your main focus next week for Double XP Weekend? And that is from Kirby. So basically, he wants a auto-decanter, I guess.
Yeah, or a potion mixer to mix the secondaries. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make more sense, considering
Yeah.
you can just talk to somebody with notes and get them decanted. Realistically, and I'm not sure if this was a confirmed machine, but I think a plank maker would be...
Yeah, that's coming.
It is? Okay.
Yep.
That's the one that really comes to my mind, considering how it really is. I mean, if you have a portable sawmill, that's one thing. But you have to be in an extremely crowded world and whatnot.
You have to pay.
And you have to pay, exactly. So I think in terms of what I would use the most, if there's nothing else that really catches my eye, I think that's going to be my main thing. because I do like training construction. But remember, I'm a very unconventional player in terms of skilling. I like doing all of the expensive and boring skills, so to each their own, I suppose. But
All right. And it's also worth noting that there is a potion mixer that is coming that will convert herbs and whatnot into unfinished potions. I don't know if that's a side Kirby wants. Perhaps Kirby wants the other side. Just thought I'd mention that. We already have this as a skill cape perk, but I think it'd be nice to have it on a mass level with noted herbs and whatnot. Would be the herb cleaner, because we've done it manually for the entire time, and now there's the perk on the herb lore cape that you can activate at will to clean an inventory of herbs, but still that's inventory by inventory and only 28 at a time. And for someone who sometimes goes to the Miscellanea Kingdom and just has a bunch of herbs coming from that, specifically hundreds and hundreds of Tarrowmen and lower leveled ones, it would be just nice to dump those in the machine and have them come out as clean herbs. So that's one of them. I think if I look at the skill list, I could probably say in terms of other machines that might be interesting to have based on the skills that kind of need a rework at this point in the game. Maybe some kind of benefit. I mean, I guess this would be more of a device than a machine, like something that allows you to perform agility better or quicker. That's more of a device. What about not an arrow shafter, because fletching is being made free to play, so you don't need something that can shaft arrows automatically for you. I don't know. I'm having a hard time blanking as to what these were. I know I had some ideas when this dev blog came out a number of months ago. Maybe that might be something. Go back and listen to one of those episodes when the developer blog for Invention Batch 2 came out, because I know we talked about those before, or rather the dev diary on this, because they were looking for machine options with this. Oh yeah, here we are back in June. Dev Diary, the future of invention, about machines and whatnot. So there's one right there. No, that's further back. Yeah, episode 623. Menaphos Modesty. We talk about the future of invention. So we talked about machines there, and I think they were soliciting feedback at that point, and we came up with some other ideas for that. So yeah, I get it. I guess that's where you can find more from the co-host, but that's what I'll go with right now, is a mass system-wide herb cleaner. I think that would be good.
I think the main ones that are going to be implemented and that would be the most appreciated are the ones that are, bottlenecked by the inventory by inventory basis.
Right.
In this case,
and herb lore
obviously
is one
that
of those.
Alkers, herb lore, tanner, sawmill. I think those are the basics. I'm not really sure how much more intricate they could get.
Yeah, they have the hide
producing
tanner.
Things.
So most of the skills are covered at this point. So, all right, double XP weekend focus.
Mine will be, as I said before, I've got one level left Slayer to reclaim my completionist cape. So I will be going pretty hard on that. I think I got about 8 mil XP, and I have some bonus XP built up, so that should be effectively worth about 2.3 million worth of raw Slayer experience that I'm going to try to bash out next weekend. So it'll be a trip, but hopefully I can get it done. So.
Overnighter?
Very possible. Very possible. We shall see. I've taken a little bit of a couple week break from RS because I went pretty hard with Slayer, so I'm looking to get back in the game, back into Slayer, I should say, rather, and really knock this out. So,
okay,
hopefully, be able to move forward. So,
I am doing better than I am with most double XP weekends. I have already been purchasing supplies and whatnot, and I have 5,000 potions waiting to be made.
There you go.
I am making the combination super prayer renewal potions because those are one of the very few tradable combination potions that can be made, and they don't require the herbs or the secondaries. And you can basically, what I'm hoping I'm able to do with this is get a kickback from people who are making prayer renewals and prayer potions on double XP weekend and selling them at a reduced cost to see if I can buy maybe a few thousand more as the money comes in on double XP weekend.
There you go. A little bit of economics 101, everybody.
Yeah. But in addition to that, I do have protein stuff that's just been sitting there. I could end up converting them to box or divine traps, I think. And using that on the crystal chinchampas and finishing Hunter to 99.
There you go. It's always good to get a 99, that's for sure. It's always satisfactory, very satisfying.
And I think this will be one of my first 99s this year, if I remember correctly.
Well, there you go.
And, another thing with that is those crystal skill champas are amazing for XP, and they get even more amazing if you factor in the crystal traps on them, the protein traps. So
yeah,
that's probably what I'll end up doing with that. So, all right. Thank you guys for your questions. If you guys want to send in like these folks did, update.rsbnb.com/ask, or you can call them in to 571-57BNB, or leave us a direct message on Twitter, which is @RSBNB. So moving on to tech news we go. We got a bit of a condensed tech news this week for you guys. Microsoft has made an announcement that they will be holding an event in London later in October where they're going to be purportedly updating their Surface line of PCs. What they're going to be doing with this is that the Surface Pro, which is the laptop hybrid model, is going to be receiving an option for LTE connectivity. We're also expected to see upgrades to the Surface Book and potentially the Surface Studio. Surface Book being the Surface that is more like a laptop, and the Surface Studio being Microsoft's iMac kind of computer, except a Surface. But there is one unknown device that hasn't really been announced yet, and all the kind of guesses are what's that Microsoft could be announcing here. And I'm going to go out on the edge and going to say it's going to be a Surface Phone, because Microsoft really hasn't done much with their phone hardware business as of late recently. And there have been some rumblings through code and whatnot that has been seen with Windows 10 that's showing that they could be announcing a phone that could potentially run x86 applications on it, meaning standard PC applications on your phone. Which, if Microsoft did this, that would be a huge paradigm shift for the mobile market. So, I mean, think of any app and imagine that running on a Windows phone. So,
hey, RuneScape Mobile. But you don't need that
there you go, except you don't need to wait for it. And, I mean, it kind of makes sense with them going this direction, because that's where they've gone with Windows 10, is just simplifying the entire line down into one experience based on the size of your screen. And as it is right now, there is no official Windows Phone device out there right now from Microsoft itself, produced by Microsoft. So this could be the way they go. And if they did this, I think it might be a very interesting change to what we've seen with phones before. Because right now, you basically just have Android and iOS, right? But could you imagine the kind of traction you could get in the business world if you could run x86 apps on a phone?
That would be a paradigm shift, is an understatement for sure. That would be huge. So
right.
It's definitely an interesting little prediction.
Yeah,
sure.
And I mean, they would definitely need to throw some security advancements into it, and they've already been experimenting with this with the limited versions of Windows 10. Windows 10 S, I believe it was called, that can only run applications from the store. So there are ways of, ensuring that it can be safe. But yeah, definitely interesting time for Microsoft ahead, and let's hope that this is the direction to go. So next piece of tech news. is relating to something that Blizzard is doing, this time in the U.S. Blizzard is opening an esports stadium in Los Angeles next month. So, this kind of goes hand in hand with when BlizzCon will be happening. But the goal behind this is that on October 7th, the stadium will open, and it'll be right in time for their first season playoffs of the Overwatch Contenders League. It's also going to offer facilities to play other games like the classic World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, and Heroes of the Storm, because all those games are played competitively, of course. And the only previous one of these Blizzard stadiums that exists is in Taipei, Taiwan. So this would be the first for the North American gaming scene. And also with this, they are, as I said, going to be tying this in with BlizzCon, which happens on November 3rd. So, and, it's good that Blizzard does this because, imagine they could lease it out to other people as well because they're presumably going to be running on PCs, so it doesn't necessarily need to be Blizzard games. And Blizzard can sponsor other games. As you know, Destiny 2 uses the Blizzard launcher if you're at all playing that game. So Blizzard is definitely shaping themselves up to be a contender in the wider gaming market here. So...
any piece of news that I see relating to bringing esports closer to the mainstream always makes me happy. I really like seeing that. I don't think people realize how much of a market it was until League of Legends exploded a few years back with I forgot what the big League of Legends world championship every year. Anyway,
I don't touch that game, so I have no idea.
No, yeah, it really broke into mainstream with that, but I really like seeing it become more mainstream. And I was, I think I saw somewhere a couple months ago that ESPN was actually going to start taking up tournaments for Rocket League.
Yeah, we actually talked about that on Tech News when that happened. So,
gotcha. So I think that's really cool. I really like seeing that just kind of creep its way in. Because, a lot of these games, as fun as they are to play, they're almost as equally as fun to watch people play. So I don't know. I think it's really cool. I like, watching stuff on Twitch and whatnot. So seeing this sort of make its way to television and main events is really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, if this was 20 years earlier, and I think we're at a point where we're kind of saturated with the huge TV channels that can start. Like, I don't see an esports TV channel or something like that starting up because it's the market just doesn't allow for that kind of thing these days in terms of new massive TV channels. It's very rare these days to have a TV channel take off and do well. But I do think that this kind of thing can be done online. And the fact that there's a physical venue for it now in North America is all the better. I think, this could be the decade's next biggest thing along with VR. So Blizzard is ahead of the curve on this, and be interesting to see them license it out to other people. Could you imagine a RuneScape PvP tournament being held at a place like this?
Oh, there you go. That'd be awesome. Although, unfortunately, it would probably be dominated by the old school community, but RuneScape nonetheless, the name is the name, so
right.
Can't complain about that. So
it's also worth noting that the arena is going to have multiple sound stages for where these things can happen, control rooms, and practice facilities. So, I mean, you don't normally think of a video game needing a practice facility just like a hockey team would, right? But that is indeed the case. If you're going there to do it in a controlled setting like that, you might as well have a practice room for it. So, very interesting to see. All right. Moving on to other things this month, including the September Skill of the Month update, which is summoning. Always interesting to see that sometimes we get a summoning skill of the month when it comes to double XP weekend.
Yeah. It should prove to be interesting here in the next 7 days or so.
Yes. Currently, we have Pernasius in first place with 740,000 XP gained. Third place is GemAndy52 with 368k. And third place is One Stone Bone with 115,000. Fourth is Flash with 71,000. And in fifth, we have Desmo360 with just over 41,000. So as you can see, a week into the month, people really haven't got started yet, and they're probably saving it all for Double XP weekend. We see that the RR Man and Swords in 57 down there have 0 and 239 experience,
it's the calm
relatively.
Before the storm.
Exactly. So we'll look back into this when it is time for the end of the month. But speaking of the end of the month, August, our Informer Roundup is out, in which we go through all of the Informer articles that happened this past month. And this past August, we had a tremendous supply of them. We had Colton's first series of NPC profiles, which was The Wise Old Man, where he goes through the history of character and provides a fun look on what this NPC's value is to RuneScape. Tanis, of course, talked about the unfinished business strategy, which he is calling potentially unfocused business, and Alex talked about the polishing up of existing features in game with Mercy finishing, namely the Livid Farm. And finally, last but not least, we have Mr. Bistro's last article with us, where he talks about summoning some sad situations and how the summoning skill was supposed to be all about pets and whatnot and followers, but that was taken an entirely different way by the game. And also last month, JamAndy52 won the Invention Skill of the Month with 72 million experience gains. So congratulations to you. And along with this, we can also say that Informer is looking for new writers. So if you want to write about RuneScape, or even if you just like writing, contact us. We want you to write an article about RuneScape. Your favorite RuneScape subject should be anywhere between 500 and 1,000 words, which isn't very long. I think that's probably about the best reading limit, is somewhere between 500 and 1,000. So that's what we asked for. And basically, if we feel that you should write for us monthly, it's once a month. You choose your topic, your deadline, and then you just submit it to us. So if you're interested in doing this, send what you want to write about and the entire article to Shane@RSBANDB.com, or you can private message it to me on the RSBANDB forums. So looking to see if anyone out there in this community would be interested in joining the team at Informer. And of course, if you join Informer, that also means that you are in effect part of this group where we look at all of the RuneScape aspects and whatnot. So potentially come on the podcast at some point too. So lots of fun stuff happening at Informer. So if you're interested, send your article to Shane@RSBANDB.com. All right. I believe it's time for some achievements of the week.
Indeed it is.
All right.
So we've got quite a few, so I'll list off a few here. We have Rye66 with 99 thieving on September 6th. A Seafarer also got 99 thieving on September 6th. Tyler Trash got 120 Constitution on September 5th. Toragrai achieved 99 firemaking on September 5th, and Catmac achieved 99 Hunter on September 4th. So great job to you guys. That's awesome.
Indeed. Also this week we have Desmo360 with 99 Invention on September 4th and 99 Woodcutting on the 3rd of September. Then we have Ms. Conan 10 with 99 Mining on September 2nd. And Toragrai again with 99 woodcutting on the 1st of September. And finally, next Sicarius with 99 construction on September 1st. So
I always like seeing multiple names in the same week as well as 120s. So extra shout out to you guys, because that's awesome. Because that means you've been wasting no XP, that's for sure. So extra pat on the back there for that.
No XP waste. Alrighty. What do you got for pick of the week? I think this is going to be an interesting one.
My pick of the week, I'm sure most of you heard of Reddit. This is, okay, I should preface this by saying I'm sure most of you have heard of Reddit, and I'm sure most of you have heard of Bitcoin. So basically, what my pick is it's called Steemit, and it basically, to sum it up, it is a Reddit platform based on a Bitcoin backend. Meaning,
So what does this mean?
so what this means is Bitcoin, for those of you that don't know, is a cryptocurrency. It's based on a blockchain, and what a blockchain is it's basically a public ledger since the inception of said blockchain. So basically, Bitcoin was created back in 2008 or 2009. You can go back and you can view records of every single transaction that's ever been made and for what amount since then. And we are already on the Bitcoin blockchain. There's already there's close to 500,000 blocks, and a block is just a section of transactions. So basically, what this means is that you take Reddit and you put it on a blockchain, so it's a public ledger that cannot be altered once it is in basically put into the blockchain. So what this means is it can't be censored. It
Or
avoids
edited
censorship.
without being noticed, right?
Correct. So basically, what it is these messages are basically put on the blockchain, and then this website is the platform which displays all of this data in a Reddit-like format. So it is basically a message board, and what makes it unique is there is a cryptocurrency similar to Bitcoin. It's called Steem, that is basically the token platform for upvoting. So when you get upvoted for a post you make, or you upvote someone else, that has monetary value. So basically, this enables.
So someone can get paid for using this website, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So instead of getting karma and upvotes on Reddit, you can post this on Steemit, and if it gets enough traction, you can actually get paid in this token, which has monetary value. So this is an excellent platform for content creators, writers, photographers, any sort of thing like that, to monetize their passion and profession, as opposed to just having a virtual, points. You actually get a monetary value.
Okay. So that leads into a couple questions that I think the listeners will have. First and foremost, you mentioned that it is on this Bitcoin blockchain. So does that mean that if someone wants to sign up and use this, do they need to pay to use it?
No, they do not. And when I say it's on Bitcoin blockchain, it's based on blockchain technology. It actually has no immediate correlation to Bitcoin. It's just using the same technology that Bitcoin uses. So basically, you just go to steemit.com and you sign up, and that's basically all there is to it. It's just like Reddit. You don't have to pay a subscription fee. It's basically just a blogging message board site, just as any other one you would see, except this is, this is not subject to censorship or, all of, I guess you could call them, downfalls that Reddit has, or a centralized platform has. So it's really risk-free just to try it out.
The key example I think of is that it has been proven before that the founder of Reddit has edited people's comments before on the website. And, that's a huge problem, because there have been Reddit posts before that have been subpoenaed in criminal cases. So, I mean, we're not saying Reddit is out to get people on this, but in theory, if the company wanted to, they could frame someone for this because they have been subpoenaed. But with this technology behind Steemit, according to my knowledge of how blockchain works, it is impossible for this to be edited. So that's one huge benefit. Now, the next question that I personally have here is, it says you get 67 cents of Steam power when you sign up today. So does that mean that you get 67 cents worth, and you can use those to upvote other people?
Yes.
All right. And what happens if you run out and you don't get upvoted to receive your Steam power, more Steam power?
The Steam power is actually available on multiple exchanges basically just means that you can purchase it. I think it's one token is like $1.50 or something, if that's the case. But you are able to acquire it other than posting on Steam it.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it could
So you don't
be
need
just,
to purchase it if you
consider
run
it like
out.
a stock. I mean, you could invest it, you could buy
Right.
some Steam it, hold on to it, and
Okay.
it could go up in price type of thing. It's sort of like a security in that sense. So
Alright.
you can acquire it by other means than just posting on Steam it.
So what happens if I were to go on here and upvote someone? Does that raise it by 1 cent in terms of price, or what does that do in terms of the amount? Because I'm just looking at this story right now. It says it's basically Twitter launched Future Night Mode. So, and that is currently worth $89.60. So if I had an account and I pressed upvote on that, how much would that cost me?
Let's see. I had it pulled up here.
Because basically what I'm trying to figure out here is there a way to use this website with knowing how much it is going to cost you to do so? Right? Because I don't think we want to be making comments if we don't know how much it's going to cost.
Right. Well, I don't think.
Or upvoting.
See, that's where it's back and forth, and I would, because I haven't personally. I've followed this system for a while, but I just recently signed up for it.
Okay.
So I've been sort of in the background, but I haven't been completely active. So I think for what it's worth at least checking out, because I see the potential in this. I know Shane does.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, if anything, it's a good proof of concept for the technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think it's worth, if anything, to get your foot in the door and just become knowledgeable about this whole technology as a whole, just blockchains and just the whole decentralizing, avoiding censorship and whatnot, because I think that's very valuable. And actually, there was something that Shane had showed me last week that was similar to this. I don't know if you want to.
No, we'll leave that for now.
Or...
We'll leave that for now until it happens.
Okay.
But I just wanted to basically say that, that since this is a pick of the week, you do not need to pay out of your own pocket in order to use the website, because, that looks like it's the main concern here. And another thing you linked me to when we were talking about this earlier in the week is that you can see more about their technology and the white paper and everything behind it if you go to steam.io. Where they provide all the information about this. So even if you're not interested in the website, it's definitely a fun thing to look at. And it's worth noting that Steemit is spelled STEEMIT.com. So it's not Steam, it's Steam with double E's. So
definitely the bleeding edge of technology as far as networking goes, for sure. So I'd be interested to see what you guys think, and just get everybody's opinion on it, because I know that I think it's definitely on the forefront of breaking through to being a part of the everyday trend. So
absolutely. All right. Well, since we're on the topic of submitting and sharing news with people, I'll just say that I'm still running our news consumption survey of 2017. So if you want to take part in that, just head on over to bit.ly/RSBANB news, bit.ly/RSBANDB NEWS. Take the survey. It's on Google Forms. Questions are optional, but we would appreciate it if you fill them all in. As with any survey, do not include any personal identifiable information here, because the results will be made public once you complete the survey. And I produce RSBANB Update. I produce another podcast, and I like news in general, so I have a general sense of what people are doing, but I think it would help if we kind of knew more about what news consumption's habit were. So bit.ly/RSBANB news, all one word. All right, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I think it goes without saying. I've definitely been stockpiling and getting myself mentally ready for this Slayer binge next weekend. Getting all my potions together. I might have to see if you have any extras lying around that you'd be willing to part with that I could pay you a top dollar for. But no,
I just
I've been
disassembled
preparing.
some.
Oh, it's a deep burn. It hurts so good. Oh gosh. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing, slowly but surely. I'm actually on my last week of the Shattered Heart Strange Rocks, so that's pretty big achievement for me in terms of trim completionist. So I'll be glad once that's over. So I got 1 week left, so I should be all out of the clear by next weekend, so I can focus on Slayer completely. So those are my two big things that I've been doing recently. So
Very nice. As for me this week, been farming herbs, selling them for double XP profits. Also, just the usual rigmarole of collecting crystal flasks, making those into my potions, or rather making them for my potions. I would like to also mention that player-owned ports is a good thing to do at this time of year for money around double XP weekends, because
absolutely.
you might be finished, you might have most of the stuff done in ports, but what you can do is you can configure the end game adventurers, if you're done for the stories, to the guys who bring you ancient bones, because the scrimshaws take 10 ancient bones each, and those sell for 3 or 4 million apiece. So you get a few of those together, and you can probably, if you worked for it, get a couple scrimshaws done each week and bring that money in that way as well. So there's that. I would also like to point out that there are some little achievements that I did accomplish this week, and since it is the start of the month, when it comes to oysters and checking the oyster on Tutorial Island this month, I got a 2.3 million GP reward from that, because those treasure hunter items are still hot in terms of value.
Oh, wow.
So remember to do your clue scrolls and oysters. I also got 97 construction before the beach disappeared.
Excellent.
And I believe the other final thing that I did was the achievement where the one I mentioned, where you have to have 28 ales in your inventory and you talk to the drunken dwarf. Credit, of course, to this one goes to Thieves in the Bits Bytes Friends chat, because he gathered the ales and then shared them around with us. The dwarf doesn't take the ales, so if you have a friend who has all the ales already, you can just borrow them and away you go and get the achievement and pass them on to someone else. So that's a good way for doing that achievement. Unfortunately, the name is escaping me right now of what that is. I know it's a miscellaneous one, but nonetheless, thank you, Thieves, for that. And that's been my week in RS. So, anything else before we go?
I think we pretty much covered it.
Alrighty then. Well, with that being said, if you guys want full show notes, that's at update.rsbnb.com. The Friends chat is Bits Bytes, and we will see you next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Later.